Geeks, it's Minx, and it's time for our Game of Thrones Season 6 finale review. We've made it through an entire season. I feel like I wish there was so much more going on right now, but we finally made it to the end. And let me just tell you right now, the final episode was epic. It was probably the best episode we've seen in the history of Game of Thrones. I think it even beats out Red Wedding, the Purple Wedding, all of that. It's the first good chunk of the episode is a little misleading because it's kind of slow. It's got this nice slow build up, and then once the main event actually happens, all of a sudden the episode just takes a turn and you're just zipping through a bunch of things. I'm going to try and go through everything that happened as quickly as possible, but this will probably be a longer video because there are some smaller details that I picked up on during the episode that I wanted to go over. I have to say, with the opening crawl, I'm super excited to see the Stark sigil on Wind Up Winterfell again. That was just a personal, giddy moment for me, so it's exciting. That's finally back the way it's supposed to be, damn it. And I feel like it's another example of how this episode is actually really tying up loose ends. Starting to bring the stories into a spot where they can converge and we can finally get down to the nitty-gritty and the war for the dawn. So the episode starts with pretty much everyone getting dressed and preparing for the trials. You've got Cersei putting on her black outfit, Tommen's getting ready, Marjorie's getting ready. They show them shaving Loras's head because they're leading off with his trial. Ultimately, he forgoes them actually having to give him a trial, and he just freely admits to all of his sins, and as a result pledges himself to the Seven, and they end up, cutting into his head this seven-pointed star, which pisses Marjorie off. But so he seems pretty set, and looks like he's probably going to get let go. While this is going on, Qyburn tricks Pycelle into coming down into his little laboratory, and Pycelle ends up getting freaking shanked by all the little birds. It was pretty gruesome, pretty savage, but I'm kind of glad Pycelle's gone because he was annoying. Before Tommen can leave for Baelor's Sept, the mountain stops him and pretty much traps him in his room, so he can't go attend the trials, which is the first indication that something is up. Marjorie actually figures out that something is up because she realizes, wait, Cersei is not here, neither is Tommen. The only thing Cersei cares about more than herself is Tommen. And she tries convincing, the High Sparrow, look, something ain't right here, something ain't stirring the Kool-Aid, we got to get out of here. But of course, him being him and having his own level of arrogance just kind of disregards that, and the Sparrows kind of keep everyone in line. Lancel is sent supposedly to go figure out where Cersei is, and gets distracted by a little kid who he follows down into the catacombs beneath the Sept, and he gets stabbed in the back like a little bitch. And ultimately, he ends up finding the wildfire as he's crawling through the dirt. But of course, he finds it too late. Pretty ingeniously, they used candles, letting them burn out to ignite the wildfire. And just like everyone pretty much thought at the end of the last episode, the last couple episodes, when Cersei was talking about rumors, we all knew it had to do about the wildfire cache. I mean, they've pretty much talked about it at least twice this season, if not more. So, I mean, forewarning, there was definitely foreshadowing for that. Finds it too late, and boom! Blows up the entire Sept of Baelor. And with that, pretty much takes out just about every major player in the King's Landing storyline, except for Cersei herself. And just one fell swoop, everyone's gone. Marjorie's gone, Loras is gone, Mace is gone, Kevin Lannister is gone, the High Sparrow and all of his little sparrows are gone. Just everyone, just pretty much wiped out in one fell swoop. The part that actually got to me a little bit is that the way Tommen goes out, because I knew Tommen was gonna die somehow because of what Cersei was gonna do, because her plans never work out, they always backfire, and we know from her own personal prophecy that she was gonna outlive her kids. I did not expect Tommen to jump out a window. Like, that was just, it was so quiet and it's just so, like, it shocked me. I was not expecting him to just take off his crown and then go jump up on the windowsill and just fall. I was like, whoa! That came out of left field. I thought he was going to somehow end up in, like, horrendous collateral damage from the explosion or something. The one thing I don't get about the collateral damage, I mean, we see, like, the bell go flying and it, like, fucking crushes somebody. But, like, wildfire doesn't burn out, like, wildfire can't be stopped by normal means. You have to let it, like, burn itself out. How did that not catch the rest of the city on fire? Like, for real. You know, it's a little bit unbelievable. So, I mean, suspension of disbelief, which is very popular in this particular episode due to some timing things that happen. Well, after the, while Tommen's busy jumping from the window and everything's burning to the ground, Cersei starts to waterboard the shame septa with some wine before leaving her to the mountain. And I have no idea what the mountain was going to do. From the way it looked, the septa was like screaming, and the mountain was seriously just standing there. Like, is he just standing there to creep her out? Like, I don't know. That seemed a little bit, you know, like he wasn't even moving. Like, I don't know. We switch over to the Riverlands. We're at the Twins, and the Freys and Lannisters are having a feast. Jaime has a back and forth with Bronn before he sends Bronn off with some chicks. And then Walder comes over and sits with Jaime and ends up insulting him by bringing up the king. They're both Kingslayers, which of course does not please Jaime in the slightest, because that is his least noble quality that that people remember him for. So he pretty much is like, well, if we have to keep, they don't fear you, they fear us, and if we have to keep taking shit back because you keep losing it, what's the point of having you? Which seemed to stump good old Lord Frey. So we switch back to the aftermath of Tommen jumping, and Cersei pretty much orders him to be burned and his ashes buried in the sept, so he can be with his siblings and his grandfather. It's like, wow, you really thought that one through, Cersei. Good job. One of the coolest parts about this, and I think a lot of people probably aren't going to agree with me, they probably forgot this happened, but it stood out to me. Sam and Gilly actually finally make it to Old Town. We get to see the High Tower, and we actually get to see the High Tower right as the Citadel releases all of the White Ravens, announcing that winter has finally come. So that was actually really cool. And then inside, once we get inside, and after he talks to the maester that's chilling in reception, he gets shown the library. Now, this library reveal was just, oh my god, beautiful. It was absolutely breathtaking. It was almost like being a kid again and watching the reveal of the library in Beauty and the Beast. Like, it was just, oh my god, now this is a library. One of the cool things I noticed is that there was a couple of really intricate, like, not quite chandeliers, but not quite, like, these light sources. If you actually look close at them, they actually look like the rotating sun thing from the opening credits. So you can actually see the various rings, and you can actually see stuff actually on at least one of the rings. So I thought that was a really amazing touch, really awesome, really great effect. So Sam's pretty much nerdgasming over himself over the library, which was really good to see, and I'm glad they kind of tied that up and got them where they needed to be before the end of the season and didn't just leave it hanging. If we go up north, we've got some stuff there. We got Davos finally confronts Melisandre about Shireen. They have kind of a back and forth, and Jon pretty much tells her, ride south. If I ever see you up here again, you're I'm gonna put you to death. And Davos is like, I'll do it myself, you know. So Jon showing that he does have mercy. Shortly after that, as you're watching her actually ride away, Jon and Sansa kind of have a trust talk. You know, kind of like, look, we have a lot more enemies now. We need to be able to trust each other. You know, you're my sister, blah, blah, blah. You know, I love you. And then before they part, Sansa goes, oh, by the way, we received a white raven, and winter is here. And Jon had this really sweet moment where he just kind of like looked up at the sky while it's snowing. And then he looked back at her and he kind of smiled and he goes, well, father was always promising, wasn't he? So that was kind of sweet. It's harking back to their house words, which is, of course, winter is coming. There's a couple of instances of house words coming up in this episode too, which I thought was neat. We jump from there down to Dorne, where Lady Olenna, who is wearing black and is obviously extremely pissed that not only did her beloved granddaughter get killed, but also her son and his heir, her grandson, all of them were killed when the sept blew up. So she's out for blood, she's out for vengeance, and she outsasses the Sand Snakes. Obara decides to get a little sassy with her, and she pretty much shuts them all down. I think she actually intimidated Alara Sand as well, because she didn't seem, she kind of backtracked a couple times, but then Varys comes out and straight up says fire and blood, which is the Targaryen house words. So that's pretty neat. We jump over to Meereen. Per Tyrion's advice, Dany pretty much dumps Dario, and with the reasoning that the best way to make alliances is to marry. I feel like that's foreshadowing, because I feel, for me, personally, I wouldn't be surprised if her and Jon ended up having to marry at some point. She leaves. She said that she wants him to stay behind with the Second Sons and take care of Meereen until they get their own elections and shit going, and also to take care of the newly crowned Bay of Dragons instead of Slaver's Bay. Afterwards, she meets with Tyrion and they talk about the big game and the fact that she's now in it, and she makes him hand her the queen, which was cool. Next we get the uber disgusting, but oh my god, I can't believe they finally showed it in the show, which is Frey pies. In the books, this happened way earlier, and it was done by Lord Manderley, but in this case, it was actually done by Arya using a face from somebody, and she pretty much serves Walder Frey, two of his sons, in a pie, for anyone not familiar with the Frey pie theory. So that pretty much got confirmed, and then she slits his neck. She slits his throat and lets him bleed out while she's smiling at him like a creeper. So that's one way to say Arya's back in Westeros. Being that she's in the Riverlands, I'm wondering if she will reunite with Nymeria or perhaps run with the Super PAC. That would be awesome. But I doubt they'll actually show Nymeria, because they haven't really mentioned her a whole lot or anything about the Super PAC. We go back up north, and Littlefinger comes upon Sansa beneath the weirwood tree, which you might remember from season 1 as where Ned used to sharpen his blade and go to think. And Sansa reveals to Littlefinger, you know, I used to come up here and pray to be somewhere else. And she goes, but I was stupid. And Littlefinger's like, no, you were a child, you know, now you're a woman. And then he reveals his own dream of sitting on the Iron Throne with her by his side. So, yep, Littlefinger is finally revealing his true wants. And Sansa finally did the one thing that she should have been doing from the beginning when it came to Littlefinger, is asking him what he wants. It's the only way she'll be able to manipulate things, you know, is, you know, how do I get what I want and still make you think I'm giving you what you want, kind of a thing. So that was cool. Next part, and probably the biggest confirmation, after Benjen drops Bran and Mira off near the wall, or at least as close as he can get to it, since he is in a state of death and decay, Bran touches the weirwood tree and goes into another flashback, and guess what? We get the end of the Tower of Joy sequence, and we finally get confirmation that R plus L equals J, and that the baby, Jon Snow, was actually Lyanna Stark's. So that was the biggest confirmation for me on the entire thing, and it's pretty much something most people knew, most people were agreed upon, and it's pretty much that kind of thing. And the way they did it cinematically was actually really cool. While Ned's holding the baby, slowly the baby's eyes very, very slowly creep open, and then it flashes to Jon Snow up in the north. And it was like, wow, that transition actually really visually worked, which was really awesome. So we're back in the north, and we've got the Queen of Sass, Lyanna Mormont, putting everyone in their place, pretty much calling out Lord Manderly, Lord Glover, and some other lord whose name escapes me, even though I watched the show like fucking 5 times. And pretty much like, you guys didn't come when they called, you didn't come, so y'all for shame on yourselves. That little kid, I swear to God, she is made for greatness, and I hope she gets some really good stuff next season, because she's amazing. Pretty much puts everyone in their place and declares Jon king in the north, because he may be a bastard, but he's still a Stark. And then all the other lords start falling into place. King in the north, king in the north. And the scene itself was much like last episode, with Jon erupting from the bodies, you know, and then that being a parallel to Dany and all the Dothraki touching her, you know, like, oh my God, you know, we're following your lead. This was also harking back to when they declared Robb king in the north, after his father passed. So that was kind of cool. It's another way to tie up loose ends. Sansa had a smile on her face up until she looked over at Littlefinger, who's just kind of like, what do you think? He's trying to get under her skin and in her head. I'm hoping that she doesn't let that come between her and Jon, because they really do need to work together. For going back south again, Jaime returns to King's Landing in time to see that the city's on fire, and Cersei is now becoming queen. She's being crowned. He comes in just in time to see her crowned, and he looks pissed. He looks so pissed. And I don't blame him, because that means if she's becoming crowned queen, that means their son is dead. So it would not surprise me if her prophecy becomes true and the Valonqar, aka the little brother, ends up strangling her. I wonder how far into season 7 Cersei's actually going to survive before Jaime kills her, because my money's on Jaime. And the last thing we see for the episode, which is probably one of the most epic, just for sheer size type of scene, is we finally get to see the combined fleet of Dany sailing for Westeros. We've got the master ships that now have Targaryen sails. We've got the Ironborn, we've got the Dorne, and we've got Tyrell ships. And I also want to point out one more thing. The fact that the Tyrells have now joined with Dany is huge. That is like almost game-breaking, because once she lands, that means she'll have the Tyrell army on her side. We already know from previous episodes that the Tyrell army is the second largest army in Westeros. So adding that to her Dothraki, to the Unsullied, you know, anything she gets from Dorne, like, she's gonna have a massive force, and I don't think it'll be long before she ends up on the throne. And I could see bringing the North into it by marrying Jon, you know, which would be okay, even though that's totally her nephew. So yeah, this episode blew me away. As you can tell, there was so much going on, so much into it. I'm excited that we finally got closure on a few things. I was pleasantly surprised by a few of the reveals, like Frey Pies. The fact that we got closure on the Tower of Joy, that everything is now converging together. Dany is finally on her way to Westeros. We don't have to wait on that anymore. Jon's, you know, uniting the North is united once more, and we're going to be able to get down to that nitty-gritty. This episode, I'm going to give a solid A, because this is the best episode I've seen. It was a lot more other than the suspension of disbelief with people traveling, like travel times. Other than that, I mean, this pretty much was the best episode, best crafted episode I've seen thus far. If you liked this review, even though it was a little longer than normal, please hit that little red button down there that says subscribe. That helps me out a lot, and it'll let you know when I get my next reviews or bonus videos out. What was your opinion on this episode? Did you enjoy the Winds of Winter episode, or, you know, did you not like it? What was your favorite part? You know, what do you think is going to happen next season? Let me know in the comments below, and I will see you guys in my next video. Later, geeks.